What's going on, guys? Thanks for finding your way to my YouTube channel. I'm Kevin Duffey. This is Duffey Geeks Out, and I'm coming at you with my review so far of the Netflix original series, The Sandman. Now, I say so far because, truthfully, I've only watched 6 episodes. But, I have heard that the first 5 episodes are kind of like a mini arc in this first season. The 6 episodes are filler, and the last 3 or 4 episodes are another arc. So it seemed like a good place to kind of stop and give you my thoughts. A little background about me and The Sandman. It is my favorite comic book of all time. I love Neil Gaiman. He's my favorite writer of all time. And I couldn't wait for this show to get made. Neil Gaiman couldn't wait for this show to get made. I don't think he or me or any of the fans out there ever thought this was going to get made. Because if you know this series, it is quite extensive. It is quite out of the norm of a typical comic book. You know, it's not superhero versus bad guy, like big bad guy does something, superhero needs to figure out how to take him down, that sort of thing. That is not this comic book. That is not this show. This show and this book, this series, is something so much more than that. It is truly one of the most beautiful stories ever crafted. It is intelligent. It is like just so massive. The things that Neil Gaiman decides to go and tell, you couldn't do a comic book like this nowadays. I mean, I'm sure you could. I'm sure there are other comic books out there. You guys let me know in the comments if there's other comics that are like Sandman, because I don't think there's anything like Sandman out there. But it's just such a massive story, and it's so well crafted. And if you've read it, if you were in the know with the Sandman, then you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. This show literally took the pages of the book and laid it out there in episodic form for me. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It is perfect. It is perfect. Everything about this show is just so good. Neil Gaiman, who obviously wrote the comic book, he's writing the show. He's kind of like I don't know if he's the showrunner necessarily because he's not directing the episodes, but you can just feel Neil all over this. It couldn't have been done a different way. It is incredible. The first 5 episodes are how Morpheus got his groove back, which is to say, it is about Morpheus being trapped on Earth, which is the whole plot of the first couple, the first 50 pages of the book or whatever. That number's definitely wrong, but anyways, it is about how Morpheus is trapped on Earth by a wizard of sorts, someone who's trying to capture Morpheus' sister, Death. And it is basically, he lands on Earth, he's powerless, they steal his equipment, they steal his helmet, they steal his bag of sand, and they steal his ruby, his his ruby amulet or whatever. And it's basically about him being trapped on Earth for like 100 years, and when he finally escapes, he's like, I gotta get my shit back, because I'm not Morpheus without my shit. The Sandman, the first 5 episodes are great, they're perfect. I mean, that 5th episode, the 5th episode with John Burgess, played by David Thewlis, who is awesome as John Burgess. I can't even, like, words escape me with how good it was. You know, it was you felt for all the diner characters that were there in the 24-hour diner. Their lives were just upended by the use of this power that this guy can't control. It was fucking brutal. And they were like, deaths was so brutal. And, oh man, I almost felt like it was going to go another way when I was watching it, and it didn't. And then the episode before that, episode 4, where he's in hell, A Hope in Hell, that's when I knew that I loved the Sandman, was when I was on that chapter of the Sandman comics, when I was going through it. Just the landscape in hell was beautiful. It was like nothing I've ever seen. And Gwendolyn Christie, I believe is the name of the actress, Brienne of Tarth or whatever, who plays Lucifer. And I know there's a lot of like shitheads out there kind of like bashing her casting because, it's a female playing Lucifer. Blah. She was perfect. She looked just like Lucifer in the comic books. And not for nothing, who the fuck ever said Lucifer had to be a goddamn man either, So I truly enjoyed her casting. I thought she was fucking perfect. Her back and forth with Morpheus. The guy that played Morpheus in this show, I don't know the actor's name, but he as soon as he started talking in the first episode, I was like, that is how Morpheus has sounded in my head ever since I started reading this comic book like 10, 15 years ago. And it's incredible. And he does such a good job, just a booming voice. Like, oh my God. I hoped he auditioned with that voice and then just like, we're like, that's it. We don't need to see anybody else. This guy's got it. But he was incredible. And the duel, they did kind of change up the duel in Hell. I know that in the comics, he has a duel with a lesser demon who has the helmet, but in the show they rework it so that he actually has the duel with Lucifer, and it's incredible. It's incredible. The way it plays out is just as amazing as I remembered it, and like I said, that was the moment in the comic books where I was like, oh my God, hope, he hits her with hope, and that's like, I was on board I was already on board by the time I got to that part of the story anyways, but holy shit, that turned a corner for me as far as becoming my favorite comic book of all time. I love that. And episode 6, which is a standalone episode, The Sound of Her Wings. This is the greatest episode of television I've ever seen. And that's saying something. I've seen a lot of great episodes of television. Game of Thrones comes to mind with some of their best stuff, but nothing tops The Sound of Her Wings. It was amazing. It's the episode where Dream is sitting there on the park bench and he's approached by his sister Death, and then she takes him on a walk through her day where she's just taking ferrying souls to the afterlife as they're dying or just before they die. And it's so beautiful, man. It is Neil Gaiman's version of Death, the character Death, and just Death itself should be a religion by itself. I'm not even kidding you. It should be. It is so beautifully done, and it treats death in such a way that it shouldn't be feared. And it was gorgeous, man. And like every episode, every interaction, even the baby, like obviously in the comics, you read the baby and the baby has interactions with her and you're like, oh shit, they fucking killed the baby. I can't believe they killed the baby in the comic book. Knowing that was coming, I was ready for it. But it fucking brought a tear to my eye still. Like I got kids of my own, man. It's emotional, but it's beautiful. The way that she walks day to day and she shows death. She basically shows Dream what his purpose is in this show, what his purpose is in the comic. His purpose in this plane of existence is to serve the people, and kind of once he realizes that they're not, that what he's here for, he can be happy. He can fulfill his duties as the master of dreams, you know? And it was gorgeous, and they filmed it gorgeous, and the actress who played Death was so good. She was so good. I really hope she shows up in the other episodes moving forward. But she was amazing. And then it cuts to one of my favorite arcs in all of Sandman, and that is the when Sandman meets his buddy who he keeps coming back to see every 100 years. The man, Death was in that episode too, or in that part of the episode too, but where he basically sits with this guy every 100 years because the guy doesn't want to die. So Death's like, I'm going to let him stay alive. He's immortal. Let's keep seeing how long he wants to keep living life for. And it was done beautifully. It was done amazing. It was fun. And another one of those comics, as soon as I was reading that, years ago when I was reading it, I couldn't put it down. I was like, oh man, this is amazing. Every 100 years, it keeps going back. And the guy's life's not always great, but he still wants to keep living. And then he insults Dream by telling him that, you're going to keep coming back because you're my friend, not because you're coming here for some obligation to see how I'm doing. Dream gets offended that he doesn't have friends and stuff like that. He's like, I don't need friends, not human friends like you. And he leaves in a huff. But then he shows up 100 years later and he's like, oh, I can't miss an appointment for my friend. And it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. It really is. And I know that this show might not be for everybody. It's not your action show. It isn't. But the landscapes and the places that this story is going to take your imagination is the kind of shit that stories were first written about. This is it's Shakespeare. It's Shakespeare in the comic world. It's beautifully crafted. It is such an art. It's such an art that Neil Gaiman created for this series in the comic books and now the series on Netflix. I think it's fantastic. There's no way the next 3 episodes or 4 episodes, whatever, how many are left from here on, are going to disappoint me. There's no way. There's no way. This is an incredible show. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you stop. What are you doing watching this video, first of all? But if you have seen it, you gotta, there's no way you're hating this show. You can't be. If you're hating it, then you just don't get it. you don't get it. So, and you know, it's subjective for everybody, but if you don't get the show, you don't like the show, you're a fucking idiot. Sorry. Saying it, there it is. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for my review of The Sandman so far. I will come at you with the rest of the episodes once I finish them, and I'll let you know what I think of the series, and who knows, maybe they'll disappoint me. Fat chance. They're not going to disappoint me. They're going to be fantastic, just like the first 6 episodes were. But anyways, guys, let me know in the comments, what was your favorite episode of the series so far? The Joanna Constantine episode was fucking amazing. I didn't even talk about that. It doesn't matter. We'll talk about that when I do the full series review at the end. I really dug this series, guys. Obviously, I'm gushing about it this whole fucking video, but let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, what you thought about this series, what do you think about the comic book. Do you think it's a miss? Do you think this is a miss from the comic to the show? Because I don't think it is. And everybody that I talked to that has read the comic book has liked this show so far. So I'm a big fan of it, guys, obviously. Let me know in the comments what you think. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll come at you with another video real soon. Thanks.